This. Also, you have beach. You have ocean in your forehead.
I always have my ocean on my brain.
That's amazing. You can see right into your thoughts.
See, most people, it's like mind on her money and money on her mind. No.
Not Jenny
Why is
Josephson.
it
Just
not,
beach.
why is it not like fully... That's really weird.
You're spectral. You look like an Enya album cover.
I look, you know what?
Oh my god.
I look like the end of the movie Contact. I went all the way in interstellar wormhole to meet some guy that looks like my dad on a beach.
Yeah, there you go. That's where you're at. Totally.
Spoilers, by the way.
Oh yeah, end of the movie. Spoiler.
If you haven't seen Contact by now, or read the book,
I just saw the last Star Trek
exist.
1984. I'm now
me at 1:30.
39.
I do not. I do spoilers for things like a season at a time.
All right. Shall we?
Yes.
We shall.
Now you have to hide me though.
Producer mode for Jenny. And audio mode for us. Here we go.
It only takes a little to help a lot. To show your support for Daily Tech News Show, go to patreon.com/acedetect and pledge just $1 per month. That's patreon.com/ACEDTECT.
This is the Daily Tech News for Friday, May 16th, 2014. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me today, got a couple of great guests. Len Peralta couldn't be with us today, so no illustrating of the show, unfortunately. But Darren Kitchen's here. How's it going, Darren?
Cheers to my friend Tom. So good to be here. I am your man Friday.
You are, my friend. I really appreciate you coming in on all these Fridays.
Absolutely.
And we've got lots of good stuff to talk about. There's more net neutrality discussion as the notice for proposed rulemaking was finally issued in its complete text yesterday afternoon. And get a little international perspective on that, we asked Breki Tomasson of the SciCon podcast network, that's spelled with a C, by the way, CSICON, to join us. How's it going, Breki?
Great, thank you. Good to be here. I think this is, what, the third show of yours that I'm on? I'm just missing Sword and Laser now?
Yeah, so hurry up and write a sci-fi or fantasy book, will you?
I'll do that. I'll do that.
You
very
actually,
soon.
after you're done with that, you do all of them and you get a merit badge. Just
ching.
See what you did there.
And on that note, the headlines begin. The Wrap reports that Mog founder, remember that Mog music service? David Hyman founded that. He has filed a lawsuit claiming he was fired before he could receive the benefits of his incentive plan after Mog was purchased by Beats back in 2012. I imagine the potential acquisition of Beats by Apple has nothing to do with this. Hyman says he would have received between 2.5% up to 25% of the company's equity, depending on market valuation, but he was fired before the incentives kicked in, he says, as a part of a deliberate effort to deprive him of compensation. Hyman wants more than $20 million in damages. Beats has not yet commented.
causation or correlation? Where there are lawsuits, there is money, or the other way around?
I think that's both, actually, because definitely lawsuits often cause money. As John Ellsworth 3 pointed out on our subreddit, Google appointed a new leader of its Google Glass team. The BBC reports as of May 19th, Ivy Ross replaces Babak Parviz. Ross previously worked for Art.com, Calvin Klein, Mattel, and The Gap. Or is it just Gap? Among others. But most relevant to Glass, she was once the lead designer at eyewear maker Bausch & Lomb. This follows on news that Techie Noob pointed out from 9to5Mac that Google's lead electrical engineer working on Glass, Adrian Wong, has left to join Oculus VR. IT World reports the EFF released its 4th annual Who Has Your Back report, ranking trustworthiness of tech firms with your data. In the wake of reaction to Snowden revelations, 9 companies received the maximum 6 stars across categories. Apple, Credo Mobile, Dropbox, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, SonicNet, Twitter, and Yahoo. All in that club. On the other end of the scale, AT&T and Amazon earned only 2 stars, and Snapchat got 1.
Way to go, everybody. I'm so proud of all these companies. See what I'm saying? Like, all of this stuff actually brings on good, and now the EFF, you just need to raise the bar even more.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do they add a 7-star level?
Yeah, it's like World of Warcraft. It's like, oh, you can only make it to 70, but then you can make it to, I don't know, I haven't played in forever. 4,000 XP now?
90.
90. 90, okay. You want to be a level 90.
So you're saying the EFF should add an expansion pack?
That's what I'm saying is the EFF should do, and continue to put pressure on AT&T. Yes.
Sounds like a good plan.
Coming this winter, Legends of Privacy Protection expansion pack from the Electronic Frontier Foundation.
Collector's edition.
Yeah, totally. Well, yeah, you get little action figurines of Gigi Sohn, maybe. Recode reports at least 10 members of the nonprofit Bitcoin Foundation have resigned after Brock Pierce was named director of the foundation last week. Pierce once was the star of Disney's First Kid show. He's also less kindly remembered as having a lot of lawsuits against his past ventures, though all have been dropped or settled out of court. Some members of the board have called for more careful vetting of future candidates and the removal of Pierce, though the foundation has more than 1,500 members, so it's still a small percentage. The Next Web reports Google will acquire Quest Visual. Those are the folks that make the app WordLens Translator. WordLens changes words and images from one language to another to help you read them. Quest says it will incorporate the WordLens technology into Google's Translate, broad language coverage, and translation capabilities. Quest has been authorized to make WordLens free to download during the transition. So I could actually go visit Breki, point this thing at a sign that's in Swedish, and be able to read it in English.
Now you can read what it says when it says infart.
Is it infart or einfart? I can never get those right.
Well, we have infarts and outfarts. It's basically way in, way out for parking garages and so on.
Yeah.
That's good to know. I will giggle less knowing what that means.
I want that for Google Glass.
You want infart and outfart for Google Glass, or you want WordLens for?
WordLens, but I'll take an ausfart if it's Välkomna.
Or just get on the train and go to the slut station, which is the end station.
Lovely. I cannot wait to visit now. Reuters reports ongoing anti-China protest in Vietnam gave Foxconn parent Han Hai Precision cause to order its Vietnamese workers to take a 3-day leave beginning Saturday. The protests have been spurred by disputes in the South China Sea. They are targeting Chinese firms, but some Taiwanese firms have also been targeted as part of the protests. Some say by mistake. Recode reports China's tech giant Baidu hired artificial intelligence researcher Andrew Ng to be chief scientist of the new Baidu Research Initiative, which has labs in Beijing and Sunnyvale, California. Ng co-founded education startup Coursera and once worked on Google Brain, which was an attempt to mimic the brain by Google. He specializes in deep learning, which teaches machines to process large amounts of data by mimicking neural networks, hence the brain stuff. Time for some news from you. These are things posted on our subreddit, dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com, and get upvoted by a lot of you folks out there, so get in there and participate. Captain Kipper always does. He posted the Ars Technica report on Adobe's Creative Cloud outage. That one started on Wednesday, was finally resolved today, Friday. During the outage, users who signed out of their account could mostly only sign back in as trial users, unless they had already signed in once as a trial user and expired their trial, in which case they couldn't sign into the software they were paying for. Adobe told Reuters customers can apply to get compensation for the outage, which will be considered on a case-by-case basis. SP Sheridan sent us the BBC story that a program called Vital, an algorithm, has been appointed to the board of directors of the venture capital firm Deep Knowledge Ventures, which focuses on drugs for age-related diseases. Vital will process data and then vote on prospective investments. Professor Noel Sharkey of the University of Sheffield pointed out that most companies use recommendations from algorithms that process data like this to inform investment decisions. So going through the motions of having one cast a vote on the board could be considered a little gimmicky.
I think this is a great start.
I think this is the beginning of algorithm rights.
Right. Exactly.
The future of AI has been assured. They can now run our companies. Actually, maybe we shouldn't allow this. I don't know.
Next step is for them to own the property.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a look at the headlines. Hey, it's a Friday, and I often get emails from people saying, "Hey, when are you going to do a weekend version of the Daily Tech News Show where you do a big wrap up?" To which I usually write back, I'm not planning on doing that. But I mostly do write that back because I already do a show that is a weekly wrap-up. It's called Current Geek, co-hosted by Scott Johnson. It's on the Frog Pants Network. I do it on Friday afternoons. We stream it live at Frog Pants. It's at 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. So if you want a wrap-up of geeky topics, it's not exactly the same thing as Daily Tech News Show, but it overlaps a lot. We're definitely going to talk about net neutrality today. Garrett Weinzierl and Brian Ibbett are going to be on the show today. Check it out, currentgeek.com. It is my geeky look at the week. Time to talk about some net neutrality here. Like I said, the notice for proposed rulemaking has become a little clearer now that I got a chance to actually read it. I think it's something like 80-some pages, and I have not read every single word. I will admit that right now. But I looked particularly at the commercially reasonable part of this. The transparency, the no blocking, that mostly remains the same. The no blocking says basically you have to provide a minimum level of service. They added some stuff about dispute resolution and ombudsman that we talked about yesterday. But here's the part that is about the discrimination. They say that proposed rules would require broadband providers to adhere to an enforceable legal standard of commercially reasonable practices, asking how harm can best be identified and prohibited, and whether certain practices like paid prioritization should be barred altogether. This replaces the Open Internet Order of 2010, which was thrown out in court, but had stated that providers were barred from unreasonably discriminating and transmitting lawful network traffic. So they basically just added the commercial part in there. The reason for that is the court said when you bar them from, unreasonable traffic, you bar them from making money off particular kinds of information, and you have them classed as an information provider, not a telecom provider. That's common carrier. You can't use that justification. So what the FCC seems to be trying to do, I understand a little more here, is say we're going to bar discrimination. We're going to bar it if it's unless it's a commercially reasonable practice. But we want to make sure that we tighten that definition of commercially reasonable. So how can we identify and prohibit that? They even ask, should paid prioritization just be banned as commercially unreasonable right out of the gate? So that's what this debate's going to be about. I have a feeling it's going to center mostly on that. There's a lot of stuff in there about competition as well, about looking to see, do we have enough competition? And can the fact that we don't have enough competition be used as a legal justification for doing things? I'm not confident that that's going to go anywhere, but at least the questions are being asked. Breki, when you look at this from Sweden, what do you feel worried about and what don't you care about? What do you feel like the effect of this might be?
We've here in Europe, we've been very fortunate. The Pirate Party here from Sweden in the European Parliament was pivotal in actually accomplishing net neutrality votes here in Europe. So we don't have to worry about this kind of thing at all here. Basically, this is part and parcel of our internet connection here, and has been for quite some time.
Breki, do you guys not, however, use U.S. services? I mean, are you on the Facebooks and on the Googles?
Absolutely, we do. But the thing is that a lot of that I feel is stuff that will just eventually be routed around. Either there will be better services made available because the American services just become too slow for us to use, or the American services decide to open up and say, all right, we're losing too many European customers based on these unreasonable practices. We have to change. I'm a positive optimist in that way.
Do you worry at all that the ISPs in Europe could point to this and help make their case? I mean, at the beginning of the month, the European Parliament voted to restrict ISPs from charging services for faster network access.
Sure.
But you had a European Parliament election recently, and there's more votes to come before that actually becomes law. Do you worry that they could come in and use this to bolster their case?
Well, yes and no. We've got a lot of very vocal people in the European Parliament, especially the pirates, and it looks like we're getting more pirates in the current election. Not from Sweden, but from other European countries. And they've been very vocal and very powerful when it comes to this sort of debate. And I'm not really all that concerned. There are other things that concern me regarding the internet here in Europe, censorship mainly, and blocking various sites. But net neutrality itself is, I don't think, an issue here in Europe.
Right, and I think that goes back to the core concept, which is when we talk about an open internet, as that term gets thrown around a lot when we talk about an internet as an open thing. The fundamental concept of an internet is an open internet, but that's not actually what we have. And the, while the very nature of the concept would do much justice to universal human rights and expression, freedom of expression without prejudice and things of that nature, that's actually never been the internet that we have had. And so we're having this discussion about fast lanes and slow lanes, and yet there's actually much bigger problems in that the actuality is that the internet is used as a tool to monitor citizens and manipulate information and just all around oppression of citizens. And it's not like here in the United States we're immune to that either. It's just that here in a nation of capitalism, internet access is largely provided by these monopolistic corporations, and these same corporations have one simple goal, and that is, simply put, just make all the money, right? That's the name of the game. So the incentive for universal access is nil. The incentive for competitive access is nil. For even quality access. And so, I mean, the way that I feel is as long as corporations exist making as much money as they can with as little restriction as possible, they're going to be winning the game. And then when the legislation comes that threatens their ability to have that upper hand and win that game, well, then they're going to do everything in their power, legal or otherwise, in order to change those rules. And even if those rules do change, they'll just find another way to manipulate the game to, again, win and make all the money, because that's what it's all about. So net neutrality in the U.S. is really, I see this as simply an element, or at least domestically, an element of capitalism working itself out. And so I feel like if we had competition, it would be a totally different story.
Yeah, nobody had to legislate peering, right? Peering happened because it was the best way to manage the network. And the things are out of balance a little bit right now. I want to read a question from Jay, who says, I agree when people say competition is the way to foster net neutrality. The problem right now is that ISPs own the only available infrastructure, and consumers do not have a choice. It doesn't seem practical to lay down new cables and fibers to reach each and every home in this country. How about separating the infrastructure from the ISPs? If the infrastructure is classified as common carrier, allowing multiple ISPs to use the same cables and fibers, ISPs can have the freedom they want, and consumers have multiple choices of ISPs. That's common carrier. I have heard that that's what a lot of European nations do to foster competition.
Yeah, it's close to what we do, or at least in some countries. I mean, the power systems are very much run this way. There's one power system that's been laid down by the government, and then anybody can use it for selling their services. And a lot of countries use the same thing for ADSL internet mainly. Fiber, not so much, at least not as far as I'm aware of. But I don't really agree with Jay. I mean, the problem is not that ISPs own the only available infrastructure and it doesn't seem practical. We can just look at Google Fiber. They've been very successful at a reasonably low cost of installing fiber in large metropolitan areas.
Of course, they have a lot of cash.
Sure, of course.
Right, and actually we too have the same kind of similar thing with infrastructure, mainly in ADSL. You don't see that in cable because, again, we're talking about the difference between a common carrier and an information provider. So it prevents that kind of competition that may actually, work this stuff out. I think as far as like competition and opportunity for solutions here, I think we may see the biggest change from above. And when I say above, I really mean like 65,000 feet as we start to look at things that...
I thought you were going to say even higher, but so 65,000 feet is pretty good. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, you look at the kinds of projects that the Facebooks and Googles of the world are working on to provide internet access from, autonomous, or what are they called, atmospheric satellites, just big drones that beam Wi-Fi down. That's an opportunity for an infrastructure that before had not been... feasible, and now is and may actually challenge the status quo. That
absolutely. Yeah, and we're seeing advances in things like mesh technology. The Internet.org project is looking at sending drones to Africa with Wi-Fi signals and so on. So there's definitely progress to be made, and it's going to be interesting to see how net neutrality rules affect these things in the future.
Right, even our own nation's military is repurposing old drones that don't have any combat worthiness or any surveillance worthiness anymore to simply be essentially Wi-Fi repeaters over combat zones.
Sure.
All right, well, I've got one conspiracy theory to run by you before we get off this topic. A Kung Fu Drafter has some concerns in an email titled FCC or SOB. He says, Mr. Merritt, this could just be the product of my suspicious nature, but could it be that we are all being played for chumps? By that I mean that could we be playing right into the evil clutches of the telecom industry. First, Mr. Wheeler tries to assert control over the nation's broadband industry. That is struck down for the fairly obvious common carrier classification issue. Next, there is the proposed attempt to introduce commercially reasonable prioritization. The net goes nuts. At what point does Mr. Wheeler throw his hands up and say, look, I tried? Then the industry just gets to chug along in the same monopolistic manner it does now, which, by the way, I think the industry would be perfectly happy to do. My gut tells me that insincere attempts to fix the broadband issue are being made with the full expectation that they will fail, and in doing so set the bar for future efforts impossibly high.
Well, it sounds like a pretty good tactic to me, and...
Is it the tactic being employed, though? Neeli seemed to think not in what he was saying.
I agree with Neeli on this. I think Mr. Wheeler is far more cunning than we give him credit.
I think,
don't know.
I have to agree that I don't think he's doing it on purpose. I do think that there are many, possibly one of the FCC commissioners, but definitely in the lobbyists, who would like this to play out this way, whether it's Wheeler's intention or not. And they have a vested interest in doing so, in getting things so upset that nobody wants to approve anything and no compromise can be reached. That is a risk of this process, whether it's intentional or some sort of conspiracy or not.
I don't know. I mean, I won't comment. I mean, that's an interesting conspiracy, and communism is a red herring. So...
Well played. Well played.
Tom, I don't want to rant too much, but I do feel like, these are really important issues, but they are secondary to some of the more fundamental internet being broken issues.
Sure.
And that even if this net neutrality stuff gets worked out, it's still very much a tool for nation states to survey, and it's still... The biggest problem is that it can just be turned off at any moment, and that got me to thinking about other open global networks. Have you thought about those other ones?
Such as, well, for instance, think about this: GPS, global network, yes, free for everyone to use all over the world, yes, citizen band, totally out there, right? However, same problem as the internet, essentially run by the U.S. and can be turned off at any moment, just like the internet, which is why we have Russia's GLONASS system, which is why China has their own Compass system, which is why the EU has their own Galileo system. Galileo,
so,
did I say Michelangelo?
Yeah, so, wrong Ninja
one of those
Turtle.
turtles. I don't remember which one.
So, actually, anyway, Galileo's never a Ninja Turtle, just so you don't email me. But that was just, as I was looking at all of these global networks, I was like, huh. And I don't want that to be the demise of the internet, but that's kind of the same problem.
I've got some last thoughts to add to that, but I want to give Breki a chance if you have any last thoughts before I wrap us up here.
Well, no, other than I just hope that people start looking at Europe as a role model in this, because I think our solution really works. We've still got issues, but we're working through them, and I think net neutrality is one that we've solved.
So one of the things I wanted to tell people, and Darren, actually, you touched on this in some parts already, why is this happening in the U.S.? Why do we have this kludgy approach to net neutrality when a place like Europe or Japan or Korea don't have this issue at all? Europe has it a little bit, at least they're talking about it. Japan and Korea don't seem to be messing with it much at all. Remember that price is not based on cost. You're going to hear a lot of rhetoric over the next 4 months about companies needing to recoup their investment. But remember that what they charge you is not directly related to how much it costs. They don't lower the price of your bandwidth as the pipes stay in the ground and get depreciated as capital investments over time. Price is based on the market. ISPs in the United States have no price pressure from competition, so they can keep the rates high on the consumer end. But what they find is they can make a maximum amount of money on a lower bandwidth connection without incurring the cost of infrastructure upgrade. There's a limit to how much they can charge, and at that point, it doesn't make any sense to spend more money on infrastructure upgrade because they don't feel like they can get much more money out of people anyway. Again, it's not that they can't afford the infrastructure, it's that they have no incentive to build it. It's the way they're budgeting that's affecting it. They're budgeting saying, well, where's the extra money going to come from the infrastructure, right? They don't budget from the current income structure. But they do see a revenue opportunity in resulting intermittent congestion, especially with entities sensitive to congestion, like your Netflixes. So this is a house of cards that falls apart if there's consumer choice, because then there's price competition, and then you have to budget your existing customers as part of your infrastructure upgrade because you need to retain them. But when you don't have to budget against consumer retention, then you look for other places to justify infrastructure upgrades. And that's what the ISPs mean when they say, we need to make more money to pay for upgrades. Not that they aren't making enough money. It's that that money isn't budgeted for that. They make that money anyway, whether they upgrade their infrastructure or not. So the main job of the ISP lobbyist is going to be to maintain the ability to increase new revenue opportunities while not losing hold of their market dominance and the current revenue that they get. Keep all of that in mind when you're thinking about this over the next 4 months. fcc.gov/comments. On the calendar, Sunday, May 18th, LG Lifeband Touch and heart rate earphones hit the U.S. Kind of go hand and ear together. And May 18th to May 22nd is Cisco Live in San Francisco. You can watch live streamed conference sessions online. The very long address will be in the show notes at ciscolive.com/a bunch of stuff. So check it out at dailytechnewsshow.com. All right, Darren, I know you were playing around with this earlier in the day. PC Part Picker is our pick of the day from Matthew in the UK and France. It's a one-stop shop for people wanting to build their own custom PCs by letting you build your PC with a compatibility checker to ensure you don't mix things up, like, you know, putting an Intel CPU in an AMD motherboard or cramming a graphics card into a case that doesn't have a slot for it. The other killer feature it has is price comparison and history. It compares component prices from popular stores like Amazon and Newegg in the US, others from 7 different countries. Also, you can generate Reddit markups to show Redditors your build and ask for help, or BB code for other forums. If you're going to build a PC, says Matthew, look no further than PC Part Picker, PCPartPicker.com. You created a monster that was like $7,000, Darren.
Yeah, I did. I was having a little bit too much fun with it. I didn't click buy or anything, although all of my parts were on Amazon Prime, so I could like totally have a very expensive Prime Amnesia moment when it shows up at my doorstep. So I won't be. I'm gonna have to blacklist this in my host file because a couple of beers later, I don't know. Like this could be really bad. No, this is a really exciting tool. I love this. I should point out, however, Tom, while you could technically buy all of the incorrect components, you couldn't physically plug an AGP card into a PCI slot. Don't ask me how I know. Wasn't me. I'm just saying.
This sounds like experience, but you said don't ask, so I won't ask.
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact that they have completed builds. You could go in, look at completed builds made by other people for examples, and then just modify them and make that your own build.
Yeah, I think that's especially cool for people who are wanting to build their first PC
Sure.
and want a starting place. Like maybe they'll swap out a couple of things because they're like, oh, I want more RAM than that, or a different brand of card that they particularly like. But it's a good starting.
Right, bigger screen or something.
Yeah, PCPartPicker.com. Our message of the day comes from Ken. He's at Prof Metcalf on Twitter. Writes in with a helpful alternative to Twitter mute. He says, I have a tip for preventing conference tweet overload of my Twitter followers. When I go to a conference, for example, YAPCNA, I subscribe to the official Twitter account for the conference. I then make all my conference-based tweets begin with that official Twitter account. So in YAPCNA's case, it would be at YAPCNA. Only people who follow us both will see those tweets. If everyone interested in a conference were to follow this practice, only the people who follow both the user and the official conference account would see them. The end game is this: people who aren't interested in the conference don't have to opt out of getting conference-related tweets.
But I thought that was the whole point, is being like, hey, look at me, I'm at a fun conference that you're not at.
Yeah, that is the downside in this, because I think it's a brilliant suggestion on Ken's part, and it's something I would do myself. But some people aren't going to play along because they want to.
That doesn't play into the narcissism of social media. It just doesn't work. It's at odds with it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for hanging out today. This was really a good conversation. And Breki, great to get you on the show, man. Hope you'll come back.
I will.
Breki is, again, at scicon.net. It's CSICON.net. Tell folks what they're going to find if they go check that out.
It's basically podcasts about various types of geek culture. We have a retro video game show. We have a show about just the most recent news. We have a show where we watch the most recent movies in the cinema and talk about them, no holds barred. We have my favorite podcast, Movieing On, which is when we watch a movie from 1999 or earlier and discuss it. So this past week we saw Poltergeist and talked about it.
That's fantastic. It's like the Swedish Frog Pants.
It is, exactly. My ambition was always, it's going to feel like Frog Pants but sound like 5x5.
There you go. Oh, that's brilliant. I love that. That's a great combo. CSICON.net. Thanks again, man.
Thank you.
Hack5.org, of course, is where you find Darren Kitchen, HAK5.org. Always cooking up some droney stuff these days.
That's what the Darren Kitchen does. He cooks up the drone stuff. Actually, we've been playing a lot with software-defined radios, and so we figured we would seek out some aircraft beaconing out ADS-B packets with some software-defined radio and some drones. And then next week, we've got a solar-powered, Wi-Fi pineapple-packed aircraft tracking mesh networking suitcase.
Wow.
That you can just toss on a rooftop and covertly track aircraft.
Talk about the internet routing around, man.
Yeah, actually, look up OuterNet too, as far as internet alternatives that are possibly free and open. Not that they don't have their own problems, but
HAK5.org to find more of that. And as usual, thanks, man. I love it that you can do so many of these Fridays. Really appreciate it. Don't forget to thank our patrons. I tell myself, 3,961 folks out there, and we've topped $11,000 a month. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You are the best audience, the smartest audience ever. I really, truly appreciate all the support that you have seen in the value of the show and the willingness to give a little bit of that value back. Patreon.com/ACEDTECT if you'd like to learn a little more about what I'm talking about. But those of you who've already pledged, you know who you are, and I thank you very much. Don't forget you have a voice in what stories we cover at our subreddit, dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. You can email us, feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. Give us a call. Leave us a voicemail. Huh? Come on. Do it. 512-59-DAILY. It's 512-593-2459, or you can just send us an MP3. And you can listen to the show live at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 Pacific at mobile.alphageekradio.com. Visit our website, dailytechnewsshow.com. I'll be back on Monday with Ayaz Akhtar as my guest. See you then.
Visit frogpants.com. Audio program so good, it's like you're there.
Brilliant.
That's a free call from Round Rock and Lockhart.
It is. Free call from most of the Austin metropolitan area.
Nice.
Oh my gosh, you're a cat.
Well, you know what they say.
Full cat.
On the internet, nobody knows you're a cat. No. I know it was a dog, but I like the kitty cat better. Great show.
Good stuff. I agree. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a good conversation.
You know, I still actually, and I implore anybody still listening to email me or let us know somehow in the Twitter sphere or whatever, if you can think of another global network that is as open or close to as open as the internet, because as far as it doesn't have to be like even two-way. Just like I guess Galileo is technically two-way with its
ham.
No. Yeah, that was the original, but there's content. I wouldn't say even content filtering. There's content restrictions
Sure.
on what you can and can't say.
Okay. Yeah.
So
fair
you
enough.
can't drop the F-bomb, and you can't use encryption over packets.
Right.
Right.
So useless.
Yeah.
Sure.
Also,
Well, not useless, but for your purposes.
Also,
yeah.
no anonymity. You have to register in a public database.
Sure. Okay. So yeah, it's not the kind of open you're talking about at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Citizen Band is probably the closest we have.
There's restrictions on Citizen Band on content too, because it's airwaves.
Yeah, it is. There aren't restrictions on the ISM band, the 2.4 gigahertz, the 5.8 gigahertz, 900 megahertz, and 430. The stuff that we use for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and all that. Yeah. No content restrictions whatsoever or otherwise, what would the FCC like be knocking at your
Yeah,
door
right.
you're like?
I heard
know-
you swearing on your Bluetooth headset.
Yeah, exactly. So that's cool, except it doesn't really have.
Oh
the
wait, that's called the
range.
NSA. Never mind.
It doesn't have the range though.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, these guys help a little bit with the Wi-Fi's, but
Well, actually, you can start an AM broadcast with no restrictions as long as you keep it like to a 30 feet radius, right?
right, yeah, sure.
So it's the same kind of thing. Like,
It is kind of the same kind of thing. It's like, hey, let's give them some spectrum that they can do anything with, but don't give them any of that good stuff that can go very far.
Yeah.
And make sure they can't use more than a half a watt or whatever.
It's a shame we never got to see Buckminster Fuller build his global energy grid, because that could really be used for good things. Not just power, but, data.
Yeah. Just for as a platform, right?
Yeah. As an infrastructure that's not owned by a state.
Right.
Wait, this energy grid wasn't state-owned, or?
It was supposed to be co-owned by many states.
Mhm.
So China, Russia, Canada, and the U.S. would co-own their power grid.
Yeah, what happened to packet over power? That could have been an awesome opportunity for competition.
I think the bandwidth was the issue.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing is I don't actually care about the bandwidth as long as it has the pluses and the other side. If it's available, if it's the quality is good, if the price is right.
And
I do
reliable.
want the latency.
I don't even need helibits as long as they're open.
Sure. I'm spoiled. I've
'Cause
lived
right
with
now I'm
100
paying
megabits up
AT&T
and
for-
100 down for ages now. So.
Hmm?
I've lived with 100 megabits up and down for ages now, so I can't imagine switching to anything else.
You would hate it here. I've got AT&T DSL at one of the places, and it gets a maybe bit.
Oh.
That's what I call it because the packet loss is 50%.
Oh.
It's a
sorry.
quantum superposition bit. You have a
it's
quantum
Schrodinger's bit.
computer.
No, it's a lazy bit.
You don't know if it's going to be a bit or not until it arrives.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's not a bit.
Schrodinger's bit.
Not a bit. Did it make it to the router? No, it didn't.
Thank you,
So
Beatmaster.
titles include Galileo was never a Ninja Turtle.
Good one.
I'd rather not
Yeah,
call
come on,
attention
Tom.
to my total ignorance of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, please. No.
Christmas had We Think You're Gonna Like It, which I didn't catch the reference to.
Well, it's a warehouse.
Or Don't Worry,
It's a
We'll
warehouse.
Take Care of That.
Toby Pinder suggests "Don't Breki the Internet," which is kind of a theme since we did the Current Geek Show.
Yeah, what did we name that one?
Breking the law.
Breaking the Law, that's right.
So it's German speaking in Stockholm? Is that it? Is it northern enough?
What was that?
Because you were talking about the Einfahrt and the Ausfahrt, and I'm like, but that's German.
Infart, Utfart. Swedish
Yeah,
is
I know.
a Germanic language, so it's very close.
That's why I'm familiar with those.
They have their own language in Brecky's country.
I know, and it's not German, but it sounds like it.
And Breki, you're originally from Iceland
it's
too,
called
right?
Yes,
Swedish.
yes, I am.
Yeah.
I'm from Iceland, but I just live here.
I only
So-
know the orcs and the borks.
Well, you're
Love
halfway
that
there
game.
then.
So title, Jenny, what do I pick?
I don't know. None of these have met with acceptance. All right, let me go back and look. Let me see if I can.
Should we go with Galileo was never a Ninja Turtle?
I like that one.
I kind of like that one for a Friday. Oh, gold
Yeah.
stars for not snooping. Better Ausfahrt than Einfahrt, which, you spell it right, it's legit,
Yeah.
but maybe not for the ages.
I either want. I like all three of those.
Oh my
Gold stars for
gosh.
not snooping. Better Ausfahrt than Einfahrt. And
I think I kind of like better Ausfahrt than Einfahrt. Oh, Beats gets mogged. Oh,
Beats gets mogged. Now you guys are cooking.
there. Now they're cooking with gas. Arr. God, I'm never going to get over this.
Is Breki? Are you in the chat room?
Yeah, I am.
Do you see Tom Gerke's suggestion? Can you verify spelling for me?
Let me see.
Here, I'll
Oh,
do it again. There.
Well, those are German words, but yes, I'm quite sure both of those are correct.
How would I spell it otherwise in Swedish?
It's ut fart and in fart.
With lots of umlauts.
No, not a single one in these words.
No, you just have to add extra ones, like double-decker umlauts.
Better UTFART than
in fart.
I mean, apparently
INFART.
T2T2 had one. The privacy strikes back. Well, why be clever? Why be clever when you could just be juvenile by taking someone else's?
I don't know why it's juvenile, Jenny. We're just speaking
Making a fart
Swedish.
joke out of
We're
it.
showing our world. Oh, there's a fart joke.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
That must mean something different in Swedish.
I think we're just showing our global, our
There you
attempt at a more global perspective.
A global perspective.
I just
Right.
posted a link with a picture of a sign here in Sweden. Och means and.
Is that your burger joint?
Yeah, it's our Five Guys.
In and out.
Oh boy.
In and out. In and out. That's what Swedish is all about.
Not far off.
Alright, so their green screens don't totally work, huh?
All right, so I guess that we're going with that.
So it seems.
I am
Wow,
exporting.
I googled infart and it says, "Did you mean infarct?" It shows me a picture of people having heart attacks.
Was it you're in English language version of Google?
Yeah, always.
Yeah, that would make sense then.
See, I know this because in Germany there's a joke, "Wo ist die Auffahrt?" which is where is the exit? Because the way that the exit signs are on the Autobahn, it's like you can never tell. As an American, you're used to a different kind of signage for how to get off the highway.
They don't use arrows.
They use arrows, but I believe it's because it's abrupt. No, I can't remember how the joke goes.
They
And there
use,
are umlauts
they
on
use
the arrows, of
but they point the opposite direction.
Yeah, there are umlauts on the arrows. The internet now with more umlauts.
A dot in Swedish is prick, a prick. So somebody was registering a domain, and
You mean like a jerk?
Right. So you can't have
okay.
you can't have umlauts in domain names, obviously, or you couldn't at the time.
Right.
So he said, well, it's the name of our company, but without the pricks.
Brilliant.
Have you guys seen this? I just posted the link in the chat. It's the Bork 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 version of Google.
Oh yes.
Let me Google myself. Bluger.
Bluger.
Bork, bork, bork.
I'm feeling looky.
I feel like Google used to be better at this.
Yeah. Now they're the man.
Right. They're all grown up. They have a mortgage to pay, kids to feed,
There we go.
my wife to pay.
Oh, there it is. I just found it. The Klingon version.
Nice.
And I implore anyone to attempt to pronounce that.
Flung on hull, I think. Close
All,
enough.
all I know is that you actually have to yell it and be really forceful when you say it.
Yeah, it's kind of like French. You
Don't
just
so much the
mutter.
word.
Klingons, you just yell.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like I would say, Klingon, hol! You know, you really have to sell the last bit.
Right, just cover it in grunt, and then nobody will know.
Yeah.
I studied Klingon maybe 15 or 17 years ago,
Oh yeah.
Reals?
back
That's
in the
so
days.
cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Was that
Were you-
offered as like a foreign language?
Were you going to study
School?
abroad?
No. Yeah, no, I tried to. I just couldn't find the spaceship. No, I bought a couple of books, and I found a site. This was back in the very early days of the internet, so MP3 was hardly a thing. But I managed to download something over my 28.8 modem at the time, with people talking Klingon, explaining how things work.
That's cool.
Does Rosetta Stone do Klingon?
Don't think so. They should though.
They
I
do
don't
a
think
lot.
is it a fully built out language yet?
No.
It's pretty built out. It's not complete.
You can do
Yeah.
Shakespeare.
Like say Quenya.
Right. Quenya and Sindarin are the two big ones. Not counting things like Esperanto and so on. Other
Right.
Right.
languages.
Yeah, I
Oh,
wanted to
Esperanto.
learn to speak what my 56, or I'm sorry, my 28.8 kbps modem spoke, but it mainly spoke frequency modulation, amplitude modulation, and phase modulation. So
Right. Right.
I actually now want to do a podcast where people are speaking as if they are their modems.
I'll be the foreign guy and be the fax.
Be
actually,
telex.
Right.
Actually, Tom, I could speak amplitude modulation, but it'd be very annoying if I did.
Yes.
You sound like the Cybermen from the early Doctor Who episodes.
Come with us. Your distinctiveness will be added to our own.
Wait, that's Borg.
You will be upgraded.
Wait, are the Cybermen and the Borg the same?
The Borg definitely seem inspired by the Cybermen, I have to say.
Let me see. This doesn't. You can't hear this, can you? That doesn't come in. No.
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 Crip.
Jenny, don't you speak something cool?
I don't speak Quenya. I wish I did.
Okay.
But that would be a false. It would be a false statement if I said that.
Quinn is a
You
beautiful
know a
language,
lot or something.
I know a lot about the languages that Tolkien created,
though. I've
but I
studied
do
them
not.
as well.
Yeah, it's just a beautiful language. And you actually really like. I once read the entire Lord of the Rings, War of the Rings trilogy aloud for a
Nice.
period of 6 months every evening, and you really get it when you read it out loud. Like it's almost meant to be read out loud. And so I got a big handle around the languages at that point.
I mean, before I was a tech nerd, I was a language nerd. I spoke 3 languages fluently by the age of 6. I was an Icelandic guy living in Sweden, going to an English-speaking school. So one of my hobbies back in late junior high, early high school was I made up my own Elvish language called Valdunalainen, which is similar to Tolkien's Quenya, based on Finnish grammar with Latin phrases and modes. And I haven't touched it for many,
It is true.
many years.
Your language is much closer to any of Tolkien's languages than ours is, by far.
Yeah.
So you would have a much easier time with it.
Sure.
That's awesome.
That's really cool.
It's a lot of fun. I love language. I'm thinking of, at some point, just sitting down and working out a new language, or learning a language that I don't have any basis in or no knowledge of, like Thai or Vietnamese or Zulu or something. Languages that I've hardly ever heard.
Something non-Indo-European.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I travel a lot, so I've heard a lot of languages, and I've started catching on to a couple of the Middle Eastern and Arabic and African.
Has anyone ever been able to speak Proto-Indo-European?
I don't think
Or
so.
have
No.
they just inferred that it existed?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if they have a
Bilingual.
grammar for it. That's a really
It's
interesting
like a
question.
construct
Yeah.
rather than a language.
Welsh
Darren,
and
what is-
Irish are not Indo-European.
No.
No.
And neither is Finnish.
And I started to learn Welsh at one point. Didn't get very far, but that's
Tricky
that's the
language.
only non-Indo-European language I ever attempted.
I tried to learn Perl
Good.
once, but
Is that Indo-European?
no,
Yes,
it's
it
not.
is.
Actually, have you guys heard the Perl poem?
Yep.
Yep. It goes waka waka bang splat tick tick hash caret quote back tick dollar dollar dash bang splat equal at dollar underscore percent splat waka waka tilde number 4 ampersand bracket bracket dot dot slash bar bar curly bracket comma comma crash.
Nice.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Hey, Tom. Can I
Yes.
put my show notes in?
You may. I am out of the document.
Yay.
So
I have to go show people around Los Angeles.
yes, go have fun showing off our smoggy city.
Fine, roasting city.
Yes, our hot, cloudy city.
Yeah.
I guess I'll stop the broadcast. Thanks everybody for
Sounds
watching, and have a good weekend.